Hey, welcome back, folks. Great to see you on this Sunday. Got an update for you on a couple pretty big storm systems that we're going to need to watch over the next 7 to 10 days. And this could bring snow, severe weather, and ice, depending on where you're watching from. And then we're going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek at February and talk about what that month could kind of bring us. And I'll tell you, I think it's going to be a bit of a roller coaster kind of seesaw pattern over the next week or so. And then after that, once we get deeper into February, we may once again see kind of more of an Arctic blast over portions of the country that could lead to more winter storm chances, at least bigger winter storm chances. Now, we're already going to see winter storms between now and then, so don't let your guard down, but definitely watching that general pattern in today's video. Now, if you're new to the channel and you haven't already, go ahead, like the video, subscribe, and hit that bell for the latest notifications. That's a great way to stay up to date as we continue what has been a pretty crazy year so far in the weather department. Also, comment, let me know where you're watching from and what you're seeing out there. And also give me a little sneak peek at whether you want an early spring or if you want to extend winter a little bit more. In fact, getting kind of close to Groundhog Day here. So we'll see what he has to say about that himself. All right, let's go ahead and dive on into things and start talking weather, starting with current satellite imagery. This is our upper level water vapor loop, and you can see just updated right there. Let's talk about kind of what we're seeing. Now, the big feature on the map right now is this area of low pressure back into California. This is an upper level low that kind of broke off from Canada. We talked about this in yesterday's video. I think even the day before that as well, kind of gave you that early heads up that this was coming. And well, here it is. And this guy is going to be really the big story maker for at least a week or so. It's very often that we get these low pressures that kind of move through here, and a lot of the times it gets stuck down here in kind of the desert Southwest, and that's what's going to happen with this storm system. But eventually, later this week, we're going to get a piece of energy to kind of kick it out here or eject it out of the kind of desert Southwest, and that's when we will see that potential for more stormy, snowy, icy, kind of a little bit of everything kind of weather moving east by later this week and into the weekend. But before we ever get there, we need to watch some of this energy up into Canada. You can kind of see waves of energy working on through. If I could draw an arrow a little bit better, there you go. Maybe that's kind of better. We're going to need to watch these as well for potential snowstorms on the way to the northeast through the early part of this week. And I do think that'll be a pretty big story. Now, let's time it out for you a little bit here. This is this afternoon. And this is our upper level vorticity map at about 500 millibars. And you can kind of see it matches up with that water vapor loop pretty well. You can even see that well-defined line here right in the middle. And then obviously our big kind of cinnamon bun back out here into California. So the two maps lining up quite well this morning, and that's what you like to see. We'll move it ahead into time. Again, the big story in the near term is going to be this big blob down here, obviously, and then watch up into Canada. You see all this storm energy and vorticity. Well, this is going to move southward and clip parts of the lower 48 before all is said and done this week. This is Monday afternoon. I think overnight Monday into Tuesday morning here, a big piece of this upper level energy is going to dive down, and bring a bit of an Arctic front into portions of New England. So we've been talking about generally a warm up. Folks in New England, though, not quite. It's going to get brutally cold again into the early part of this week from Tuesday into Wednesday. This is also going to produce some snowfall before another system behind that one. So we're talking about a more quiet pattern. Yeah, sure, maybe it is down into the southeast where we just had historic snow and now we're kind of thawing out, but other parts of the country far from being a quiet period. And you can see that here. We'll start out West California, who hasn't seen rain in a while, getting some of that rain and high elevation snow into the Sierra Nevadas, and obviously much needed due to the wildfires that we've seen out there, and obviously keeping folks there in our prayers and thoughts. But this will definitely help us out. We're going to get some rain from LA down through really much of Southern California along the coastline, and then that higher elevation snowfall. So the good news, low pressure here right off the coast. This is going to bring humid Pacific air into eastern California there, again through the big cities, LA, maybe even San Diego. And then up the road a little bit as well. There could see some of that liquid gold, if you will, even better than probably normal gold at the current juncture that we're at out here. Now, the difference between this low pressure and the one that brought the fires, I know a lot of the times people down here maybe hear low pressure and they kind of get scared a little bit because, yeah, technically it was an area, same kind of setup as this, that brought the fires in the first place last time, but it's all about the placement. Again, I just talked about where this one is. The last time we had one, it was kind of like this. And what was happening is it was kind of helping to funnel energy back down the mountains as the wind was kind of going around the low pressure. You kind of get the general idea. Well, that created those Santa Ana winds, brought the very fast and very dry air down the backside of the Sierra Nevadas and the Santa Anas and all the fun mountain ranges here that I'm honestly not very well, I guess, educated on, but definitely brought the problems with that. This time different though, we're getting the flow out of the ocean. That's going to help to moisten things up and really help those firefighters. Now in the east, not dealing with wildfires by any means, but we are dealing with some active weather. You can see kind of a couple pieces of energy. This is this afternoon. We've got some lake effect snow ongoing, specifically up into the Tug Hill. Who would have guessed, right? But the bigger story, I think, is actually going to be this little piece of energy we have down into the south. Going to see some heavy rain this afternoon and evening through Louisiana, Mississippi, even potentially into Alabama, back down into East Texas. And you'll notice, you see this blue line here, this is our 540 line, and generally speaking, this is a pretty good gauge for the rain snow line. And what's going to happen is some of this precipitation, not a lot of it, but some of it is going to work up and over that 540 line, and we are going to get some winter weather into this evening. Specifically overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning through portions of northern Tennessee, kind of right there along the Kentucky border. Here's early tomorrow morning, about 4 a.m. We've got some light snow. Not a big deal, but enough that you probably wake up tomorrow, maybe in portions of the Tri-Cities, potentially as far south as, or as far north as southwestern Virginia, and then there into that Kentucky-Tennessee border from kind of central Kentucky eastbound. Could wake up with a light dusting of snow on the ground. And then even I think the northern mountains of North Carolina could get some flakes out of that tomorrow morning. But other than that, it's just going to be kind of a rainy, messy, dreary Monday. And this will kind of be, I would say, the last hurrah of the cold air for a little while, at least down this way. You can see all that rain working through Columbia, Augusta, Atlanta, Birmingham, Charlotte, all the way into the coastline, Myrtle Beach. This will be the first precipitation you've seen since the great snow sleet storm of 2025. This gets us into tomorrow afternoon, and that kind of showery weather continues, and then it kind of begins to work on out of here. But notice what else is on the way. Let's back it up a little bit. This is tomorrow afternoon, Monday. You're thinking, all right, well, we're pretty quiet in the Northeast. I told you an Arctic front was coming. Here it is, and this is strong enough. It's producing some pretty potent snow here as it works through eastern Canada, through Ontario, Quebec, up into the UP of Michigan, and eventually, this is Monday evening. Check out this front, brutally cold air to the north. As that brutally cold air is kind of racing in, it's producing just enough lift. Yeah, we're getting some snow showers along it. In fact, I would argue even snow squalls. This could be one of those scenarios where it goes from, pretty calm day to absolutely whiteout conditions in a moment as this pushes on through. Timing here, again, this is Monday evening, especially the evening of Monday, getting into upstate New York, back down towards Buffalo, Erie, and trying to push through portions of the interior Northeast, but losing steam as it approaches the I-95. But I think Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, even back potentially down towards State College, Harrisburg, Scranton could get some snow out of this. But by the time we get to Jersey, Philly, down into Long Island, Connecticut, Rhode Island, kind of losing steam a little bit here, and that gets us on into Tuesday afternoon, where things cool down big time in the Northeast, and then you'll notice another troublemaker right behind it, and that's what we're going to go ahead and talk about now. So before we do, I guess let's talk about the snow totals from this first little system that works on through. Not a ton in the Midwest. Now, this is mainly going to be a northeastern event, but you will notice some snow into the UP, specifically the eastern upper peninsula here, and same story for the northern bit of Michigan here, specifically the northwestern part of the thumb here, likely to get some snow. Places could get 3 to 5 inches, more likely to see 1 to 3 for most of us, and then a dusting further down the shore, not out of the question out of this. But the bigger totals, yeah, that's going to be in the Northeast. The Tug Hill, as if you haven't already seen enough snow this year, well, check it out. Here you go. Plenty on the way out of this. Another foot or two there for areas probably just south of Watertown, and then into the Buffalo area. A couple of inches of snow out of this during your Monday, Tuesday, and then you'll notice nothing for the I-95. Now, I will add, I think areas in here you're not seeing a lot. But we could get some accumulations if those snow squalls overperform a little bit. And anyone that has lived here for a while will know it's kind of a boom or doom kind of forecast here. At least if you're a snow lover, would be the doom. You might not get anything, or you could boom and get a quick inch or two out of those very heavy snowfall rates. So we'll see. Some folks will get lucky or not so lucky, depending on kind of your definition of the word there. But definitely expect that. And then the very cold air behind it will be a whole nother story. We're going to be basically feeling the same way we did after the last shot of Arctic air. This is not going to be a mild air mass by any means. All right, so that gets us to Tuesday afternoon, and like I mentioned, that's not the end of it. That Arctic air is setting up the stage for another piece of energy, and I know obviously you see this big bowling ball down here. We're going to talk about that, but for now, I want you to focus on this energy up into Canada. Like I said, the jet stream's still very active here. We had that first Arctic front that just moved through, as I showed you, and then we get to Wednesday, another piece of energy back here towards Minnesota, Wisconsin, portions of Canada. That's going to also dive on through here and potentially bring some active winter weather and a pretty potent clipper here. Now, you'll notice we've got just enough lift here by Tuesday into Wednesday for low pressure to begin to form. And I think this could be a pretty potent one too, maybe down near 990, 995 millibars. It's going to kick up the wind, that's going to kick up the lift, and that's going to increase your snowfall chances into portions of the Midwest, specifically the northern Great Lakes and into the Northeast as that swings on through here. And if that wasn't enough, it's also going to bring more cold Arctic air. So it cannot catch a break in the Northeast while the rest of us are maybe warming up in the South. The Northeast didn't really even get much snow out of the last pattern, and you're still dealing with the brutal cold. So I feel you. Trust me, I know it probably can't be fun, but hopefully for my snow lovers, we can get a big nor'easter in February, and it's possible. So definitely stay tuned for that. So this is what this is going to kind of shape up to be, that piece of energy. This is the GFS model. Wednesday morning, you can see that low pressure increasing here and a nice band of snow from Boston up through New York State. Into Vermont, New Hampshire, really just a nice swath here. Even some snow probably before this into the UP, up into northern Michigan, northern Wisconsin, potentially Minnesota. Getting a little bit of snow out of this. It's not the only model showing it. Here's the Canadian model. Very similar look, a little bit further north, but the same idea. The European model. I mean, this is a pretty good agreement. That's the GFS. That's the European, about dead on. The European a little bit further north again, but either way, the storm there. The Icon model has it. The NAM is probably going to actually go out that far as well. The NAM has the storm. The UK Met has the storm. You get the point. The storm's happening. It's on the way. The question will just be, how much snow do you get where you live? And I'll try to answer that here. It's a little too soon for specifics, but you'll kind of give you an idea here of what's going to happen. So this is Tuesday morning, this coming Tuesday, January 28th at about 7 a.m., 6 a.m. or so Central Time. Again, give or take a couple hours. Obviously, this is going to change between now and then. It might be a little sooner, a little later, but you get the point. Tuesday morning. Here's some snow breaking out into the International Falls area, back towards other portions of kind of, I don't know what you call this little bit of Minnesota. If you live up there, let me know. But that kind of bit that juts out, going to see some snow into there, into northern Wisconsin, back into the UP of Michigan. We get to Tuesday afternoon, and folks, this is very quick moving. This is going to fly through by Tuesday afternoon. Potentially areas just north of Detroit could see some snow. Much of the northern thumb of Michigan seeing some of that snow begin to fall. And then the storm getting a little bit of a boost, I'd say, as it moves over the lakes. The Finger Lake's going to get some good snow out of this Tuesday evening. I say good snow, relatively speaking, for what has been a relatively quiet winter in the Northeast. This will be notable snow. How about that instead of good snow? Because I know I'll get comments from somebody saying this isn't good snow. Good snow's 2 feet, but whatever. All a matter of opinion. So here we go. Overnight Tuesday, continuing that snowfall trend. And then we get to areas a little more populated, like Boston, up through really much of the state of Massachusetts, southern New Hampshire, Vermont, getting some snow out of this. And then the storm cranks up a little bit, and now the front side and the back side begins to see some snow. So we're kind of seeing that snow break out into western PA, much of New York State. Nice little snow event, some snow back into Michigan as we get some lake effect to kind of crank up on the backside, and just overall a nice little clipper system that brings a quick swath of snow, maybe even some northwest flow on the backside as far south as West Virginia. And then that sets us up for our next topic, which is that big storm down near Texas. All right, so let's talk about snowfall totals here. I think that's going to be useful to you. This is the blend of models, and I think doing an all right job of showing that potential, at least that swath here from kind of portions of northern Minnesota into the UP of Michigan, back down into Pennsylvania, at least up near the Erie area, up towards Buffalo, and then kind of leveling off here around Boston. A good swath of snow out of this clipper. Exact cities, we can dive in a little bit here and give you a little bit of a better idea. Out towards Eli, the mean here around 2 to 4 inches of snow. I think that's pretty reasonable. Up into the UP, Marquette running a mean of about half a foot or so, a little less. Same story for Sault Ste. Marie, seeing that potential. Into kind of the Bay Harbor area, could see a couple inches of snow. Gaylord, Michigan, a hot spot here, could see half a foot of snow out of this setup. Cadillac a little bit less, even less than that down near Big Rapids, maybe seeing 2 to 4 inches. Detroit, kind of on the edge here. It says about 0, but if just a little bit of that snow gets further south, you could see more higher likelihood up towards Flint and Saginaw, though. Same thing for Port Huron, could get 1 to 3 inches through those areas. Cleveland could pick up an inch out of this, and then you get to the Northeast and some higher end totals up near Buffalo. Obviously, the Tug Hill, where it just won't stop snowing, and then places like Boston, I think could get a good 2 to 4 inch snow out of this. Would not surprise me at all. Same story for Manchester, up towards Portland and into the down east areas of Maine. So not a huge snowstorm, but worth talking about. It could definitely kind of be something that catches a couple people off guard. So we will see. All right, and that sets the stage for the next storm. I told you, folks, it's a little more quiet, but we don't have a deficit of storms to talk about by any means. So here we go, Wednesday afternoon. Let's do it all again. That big storm system out near California. Yeah, I told you it gets stuck down there for a little while. Well, here it still is Wednesday afternoon over the Four Corners, but it's at this point that we're getting a just absolutely tremendous amount of lift. And you're probably wondering, what are you talking about, Gerald? And I'm going to kind of talk about where we have the lift right into here. You're thinking, all right, well, all the pretty colors are back near Arizona. Why is that where we have the lift? Well, it's what we call difluence in meteorology. You kind of see how all these isotachs or these lines, see how they're kind of spreading out here, kind of doing this. It's almost like they're fanning out or something. Well, basically, what this is creating is a void above us, and that's going to create that rising motion. And we're going to get a lot of rain over portions of Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and southern Arkansas by this coming Wednesday afternoon. And then through probably Thursday and Friday as the storm kind of just slowly meanders here. Here's Thursday afternoon, really not any further east than it was on Wednesday. This is going to kick up some snow into the Four Corners. And then I think right around this time frame, this would be Friday, this is when we could be dealing with, one, a severe weather risk, but also a potential snow threat down into portions of Colorado, New Mexico, and then West Texas, Western Oklahoma, potentially getting some snow out of this setup. And then the question becomes, what happens next with the storm? Now, we feel confident it's going to get pushed out this way, but exactly how it does so, the models are kind of disagreeing on a little bit. And there are some scenarios the storm could produce a pretty good snow into the Northeast, at least for parts of the Northeast. I will, preface that. But here we go. The storm kind of kicks on out of here. Again, all that lift, we're going to get a lot of rain. But right around this range is when things get a little bit more interesting. So the storm tracking probably somewhere in like this. And then the question is, does it continue that way, or does it kind of hook it east a little bit and kind of ride the Mason-Dixon line a little bit out to sea? If that were to happen, then we could get a kind of a notable winter storm event into the Northeast. If it kind of keeps on going inland, then this will be more of kind of a wintry mixed terrain setup in the Northeast. And that's what we need to watch kind of through the coming days. Again, it's still about a week from now, so we're going to need some time to figure it out. But let's show you some model guidance and break it on down for you. We'll start with the GFS here on Thursday morning. Like I said, it's going to be pouring, raining cats and dogs, if you will, down near Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, into Louisiana. That kind of hangs around, wave after wave after wave of rain. This gets us into Friday and Saturday. Then the storm finally starts to push east. And by the way, I'll back it up here. It's in the same time frame, maybe Thursday and Friday, watching for a potential severe weather threat down near the Gulf. I'm not overly optimistic we're going to see a huge outbreak or anything, but we'll watch the ingredients and see if instability trends up or down. We should have, though, plenty of lift, and I would think at least a good amount of wind shear to work with as well during that time frame. But we'll keep moving it ahead. We're going to get some rain into the Tennessee Valley, the Ohio Valley. The models for my friends back into Kansas, Nebraska, and Iowa have backed off on snow potential for you. The reason is the storm's a little bit further east now, and because of that, we're just kind of lacking that mixture of cold source and lift. So we'll see if it trends back the other way, but you see a pretty wet storm here by Friday into Saturday. Again, the time above my head, which I will always mention. And then the GFS gets this into the Northeast Saturday morning. All rain for Virginia southbound, all rain through the Ohio Valley, but running into that Arctic air that we're still dealing with this week. And we've got a bit of a winter weather event from Pennsylvania up into New York. And notice what happens. The GFS does what I told you would be a possibility. The storm kind of hits the Ohio Valley and then tracks across the Mason-Dixon line. And because of that, it's more of a winter weather event in places like New Jersey, New York City, maybe into Scranton, areas like that, into the Hudson Valley. and then another little wave of precipitation, and this becomes a bigger storm that becomes a much bigger problem for the Northeast, and it's a full-blown winter storm. I mean, that's what it is. That would be an impactful one that could bring big snow and big ice, and a very different look than the model showed yesterday. If you watched yesterday, the model showed this thing just riding all the way up through the Midwest and bringing snow back out this way, and then just a whole bunch of rain into the Northeast. So this is obviously different. With a bit of a different upper level configuration, and as we get closer to time, we'll break that down a little bit more in depth for you. But you kind of see that. That's a good winter storm on the GFS. What about the European? What does it show? Well, same idea here to start off. Rain in the Ohio Valley, rain in the Tennessee Valley. Again, that little bit of a severe weather threat. This would be Thursday and Friday down near the Gulf. Watching that, like I mentioned. The European also still bringing some snow into Kansas and into Texas and Oklahoma Panhandle. But then the storm gets kicked on up in north and east, and it's kind of that more solution we saw yesterday, kind of winter weather to rain in the Northeast. And then clears on out of here, and we're all clear until about 10 days or so. So still, just as I said, so it's a different looking storm than the GFS. But the GFS kind of flipped camps overnight, so we'll see if that's the start of a trend or if maybe the European is still right. What I will tell you, if we look at the ensembles, is the GFS may be onto something. This is the chance of at least an inch of snow within a 24-hour time period. I always show this on the channel this time of year if you're new. And check it out. We've got snow chances increasing through New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, again, eastern Oklahoma and Texas through the Panhandle, maybe even, western rather, not eastern, western Oklahoma and Texas, and then into western Kansas. By Thursday into Friday. And then the snowfall chances much lower now through Iowa, Nebraska, Missouri than maybe we saw yesterday. But watch what happens in the Northeast as we kind of get a bit of an uptick in potential snow right here. I mean, check that out. That's a pretty good signal for snow. Now, the question is this front end snow that changes to rain, or is this closer to what the GFS shows? That would be, more of kind of a favorable storm track that keeps it an all winter weather event. Well, that's a great question. You know what? Let's try to answer it on the fly here. You get the idea, though. That's definitely a good signal for snow. Let's do something on the fly that will be something I analyze for the first time with you. Let's look at the ensemble low pressure track. So let's move this ahead in a time. Should have enough agreement that this is worth something to us. So here's a storm system. This is Friday morning. You can see this is all the little dots with the numbers. That's where the models or the different ensembles project where the storm could be. Let's see where it takes it from there. Keeps on going, keeps on going. And you kind of see two different camps here. You see a cluster here, and I know it's kind of hard to see, but just trust me. This is the more inland track camp, and then you have some here that get more of a Miller B type setup that transfer the energy to the coast, and that would bring bigger snow to the Northeast. So that's it's interesting. That's something to watch and something we will definitely monitor. What about the GFS? What does its ensembles show? Big snow chances, like I said, through the desert Southwest into the Four Corners, specifically New Mexico, Colorado, and then into even western Kansas there, running some snowfall potential by the weekend. And then you notice snowfall chances really growing here into the Northeast. That's not a huge signal, but definitely worth noting. And could this be the start of a big storm in the models? We will see, and we will continue to break it down for you. All right. That's that storm. Now, let's give you a quick sneak peek into February. And like I said, not that we don't have anything to talk about now, but I know all my snow lovers that just experienced it for the first time in the South are wondering, are we going to get it again? Or if you're like me and you live in a place like Charlotte where it feels like everyone around you has gotten snow, you're wondering, well, what about me? Is my time coming? Well, let's talk about it. So this is right after the storm we just talked about, or really right during it. You see on the ensemble here, this is the European. Here's the storm system. Down here, we've got ridging in the southeast. That's going to warm us up here. We've still got cold air in the northeast due to that Arctic blast we just talked about. Well, that's going to kind of move on through. Again, questions to answer with that one. But then after that, the pattern looks to become kind of zonal for the first couple days of February, meaning it's really just east to west flow. That's going to keep the weather probably at least relatively boring and mild for maybe just a couple of days. Not a long time period, but for a little bit. And then after that, let's pause it right here. This is about the 5th or so, the 4th or 5th of February. We've got one trough out west. We've got another trough in the northeast. Could one of these produce a storm? Definitely. But overall speaking, a big ridge in the east central part of the country. That tells me it's probably going to stay pretty warm. However, we go all the way out into time right about here towards the start of the second week or so of February. And you'll notice more troughing again showing up. And this once again could bring that cold air with potential for winter weather in areas of the central part of the country or the east. Now, do we get a big trough to dump? Does it dump in the east? Does it dump in the west, in the part or in the central part of the country? It's way too soon for any of that. But just know, and now through I'd say at least the first week of February, we're going to get storm systems, but probably a little bit more mild in the south, maybe still cold in the north. And then back towards the start of the second week of February, so everyone could begin to get in on the fun again. And that's what we will continue to break down for you. You can see that pretty well in the temperature trends on the models here. You can kind of see what's on the way. This is this afternoon. Nothing crazy showing up, but by the time we get to Wednesday into Thursday, another big shot of Arctic air in the northeast. I know you're probably tired of it. We're still talking temperatures 20 degrees or so below average. And then after that, the warm up begins a little bit. You can see by Wednesday afternoon, warmer temperatures try to kind of sneak back on into the forecast, especially in the plains and in the southern part of the country. And then that Arctic air holding on in the northeast by Thursday. But then I think by next weekend, we're going to again stay pretty warm in the southeast, pretty warm back up into the plains, but the northeast, this is going to be the big question mark. Does that storm system kind of keep a favorable track and keep the cold air locked into place? We'll watch that for this weekend's storm system. But then after that, as we go into the start of February, I think a big warm up for the first couple of days. You see all that orange, but then we get deeper out into time and look at the blue creeping back in by the second week or so of the month of February. So it looks interesting, folks. We'll keep on tracking it. Very intrigued by this weekend storm. We'll see how that shakes out for the northeast. But before we ever even get there, we've got a couple other areas of winter weather to monitor. Alrighty, folks. Y'all have a great one. Stay safe, stay warm, and I'll see you all next time.